Hello and welcome to this press briefing by the Jerusalem Press Club. This is a special evening briefing that we're holding on day 2 of Operation Rising Lion. Yesterday morning, we did a sort of improvised briefing with 4 guests, which was basically 4 consecutive Zoom interviews, one after the other. What we plan to do today to make this shorter and a bit more succinct is we have 3 guests on the line. We will do this as a sort of panel discussion and discuss the day's events. I do encourage journalists online to field your questions. I'm sure you have many. So let me first present our guests. We have Oded Ailam, former head of Counterterrorism Division in the Mossad and currently a researcher at the Jerusalem Center for Security and Foreign Affairs, the JCFA. Hello, Oded. You've been our guest on a webinar, I think, a month ago or so.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for agreeing to be here. Dr. Eyal Pinko, Senior Research Fellow at the Begin Sadat Center, Lecturer on National Security, Intelligence, and Cyber Strategy at Bar-Ilan University. Thank you very much for your appearance tonight again, Eyal. And finally, we have Inbar, a Senior Research Fellow at the Missile Defense Advocacy Alliance and an expert on ballistic missiles and drones. Hello, Tal, and thank you for joining us at such short notice. So, first of all, I'll present my question, which I'm sure is on every Israeli citizen's mind, which is, there's assessments they have about 3K ballistic missiles. They fired so and so many. The IF took out so and so many. Bottom line, how many more days of this kind of, night salvos from Iran and I'm not sure about our side attacking them, but how long can they keep up with this? Who wants to field this first question? It's kind of general. Eyal, go ahead.
So for the assessment based on I would say different research centers mainly in Europe, they had the Iranians started this campaign with 2,000 ballistic missiles from different types and different families. One of the things that they are lack of is the capability of providing or manufacturing new motors for ballistic missiles. So this is one of the things that are not enabling them to move forward with more missiles. Taking into consideration, they fired yesterday around 200 to 400 missiles, and part of the missiles were destroyed by the Israeli Air Force attacks. So I believe they lost around, let's say, 500 to 800 missiles. It gives them a still huge arsenal to fire. But in order to maintain their ability to strike Israel in the next few days, I believe that they will strike in less less missiles at the same time, trying to preserve their capabilities more and more. But what maybe is more important from the Israeli point of view is that we also took down the vehicles, the launching vehicles, which are they are the critical part in the chain. So once they don't have a launching vehicle, even though they will have 100 or 1,000 missiles, it's a little bit problematic. So you see the Israeli strikes are against the missile warehouses and the launchers themselves. And let's see, as you said, let's see what will happen in the next few hours.
Okay, thank you very much for this, Dr. Pinko. I have now a question for you, Oded, which the truth is, well, Dr. Pinko could also answer it, but regarding, we've read reports of a very daring operation by Mossad operatives in Iran, and I follow a very famous Telegram channel, which Abu Ali Express, everyone knows it, which discusses a sort of panic inside Iran about if you see those trucks, report, etc. So, can you say whether Mossad still operates in Iran, or those preparations, from the beginning of the operation, are finished and these guys are out of the country? Or can you not say? That's also okay by me.
First of all, I must claim that I'm not anymore in the Mossad, so I don't have a real substantial knowledge on the operational level, which is happening right now. But I can say a few things regarding that, okay? First of all, this operation, it's not just a hit and run operation. It's something that was prepared for a long time, for years, by the Mossad and by other groups within the Israeli administration. And it's a long process to infiltrate Iran in such a capacity that had been reflected in this campaign. Now, absolutely, it's not just, we close the door and throw the key and bye-bye. It's a long-lasting operation which will take a long time. There are still quite a few targets and objectives to be reached by the Mossad and by the IDF. So definitely, it's not the end of the story.
Okay, thank you very much for this, Oded. I'm sorry for doing this kind of ping pong style, but I do want to, to engage each one of you at least in the question before we make it like an open floor for the journalists. So, Tal, I'm guessing, before this operation, which yesterday we discussed, Eyal said it's been in the preparation. You just said also yourself that for months. I'm guessing that Israel beefed up its production of Iron Dome interceptors and other interception systems. And we just discussed, the limited amount of ballistic missiles that Iran has. And yesterday we discussed even the number that they can produce. Can Iran sort of wear down Israel's interception capabilities with just large numbers of let's say, low quality drones, which are, I think, if I'm not mistaken, quicker and easier to manufacture?
Well, you have to understand that, let's say, Iron Dome missile is much cheaper, and we can produce much more missiles in the same amount of time. In comparison with the heavier and the more sophisticated and, of course, more expensive Arrow 2 and especially Arrow 3. So in that regard, the strategic arsenal, if you will, of interceptors in the hands of the IDF, and we, of course, not going to tell any numbers of the interceptors, but the quantity of higher atmosphere and the outer space capabilities of interception of Arrow 3 is lower than Iron Dome. And if you talked about how much time it will take for Iran to manufacture a new ballistic missile or a new UAV. So UAVs are very crude and simple to assemble. But you have to also remember that most of the UAVs are intercepted not by Iron Dome, but rather by air-to-air missiles by the Israeli aircrafts and some. And we saw it today through the IDF spokesperson shooting down of some Shahed 136 with Apache helicopter. So the question is the quantity of interceptors against the quantity of missiles, ballistic missiles, heavy ones, that you have to intercept because otherwise the cost is hugely expensive in terms of perhaps human lives and, of course, damage on the ground. So there is inherent imbalance between the two.
I understand. Can you just comment on whether the new I think it's called Light Shield, the new laser system, is being used at least against UAVs this time or not against Iran? Because it's been reported that it's been used in Gaza several dozen times.
Yeah, first, laser is a good system, but limited in many ways. And lasers against ballistic missiles, which had protective thermal shield on the re-entry vehicles, because the missiles fired from Iran, part of the way they perform in space. So they have to be protected against the heat during the re-entry into the atmosphere. And so a laser has to be much more powerful to engage such a missile. And it is no coincidence that there is no workable laser against long-range ballistic missiles. And I think it will be the same in the future. So for the current exchange of missiles between Iran and Israel, the laser is mostly out of the equation.
Okay, thank you for this. I have now just to go quickly over our basic statistics, let's say of day 2. More than 150 rocket launches reported. The Iranians report much higher numbers. 17 impact sites identified, 3 people killed, 174 injured. So in general, the interception systems are very effective, and we know about the fatalities that they were not, killed when they were in a safe area. So just to segue from that, I want to ask the entire panel, do you think the proxies like Hezbollah and Houthis and militias in Syria will eventually join this escalation? Hezbollah said it's not going to, but can we expect maybe something like coordinated attacks?
If I may, I will start with it. Okay. Look, we are in a situation where the Iranians' proxies are very, very limited. It's even sort of a nightmare for the Iranian to start a campaign under such horrendous conditions. Look, in the north, Hezbollah does not exist anymore as an imminent threat to Israel. Syria is practically gone. We have the Iraqi militias that are a bit reluctant to join what we see now as an overall campaign between Iran and Israel. And they are left with the Houthis. The Houthis right now did not portray any will to join on a full-scale attack on Israel for a few reasons. First of all, part of their arsenal was eradicated by the Americans in the campaign. Secondly, they take into consideration that they have to maintain some sort of stock for future engagement, either with Americans and Israel. And also, they are not 100% under the thumb of the Iranians as proxies, okay? They have their own interests in a way that it doesn't always combine or linked with the Iranian interests. So I don't see right now as a feasible possibility of an overall major attack from all sides on Israel of any sort of proxy that will join the Iranians, and practically the Iranians are left to themselves.
Okay, I understand. Thank you for that. I do have a sort of semi-political questions. So if you want to take that or that, I have a journalist asking that when the prime minister nearly attacked in 2010 and 2012, he was deterred by his top security officials and top ministers. Now he has a group around him that is far less independent in outlook. Do you think if those same security and ministers were still in office, they would have agreed to his attack? Or in other words, does the broad Israeli security establishment think this was a good idea, or is it only happening because the prime minister has kept certain loyalists around him? Eyal, do you want to pick this up, or
I prefer not to go into this kind of political issues.
okay,
Well,
Oded,
excuse me in advance.
Yeah, Oded, do you want to say something about this?
Same with me, like Eyal, but I would just say one thing, okay? This is important. In September 2014, Israel was poised to launch an attack on Iranian facilities. At that time, they were on much smaller scale that we are observing right now. And we had the capability, we had the intelligence, and we had the knowledge. Unfortunately, and I'm saying that unfortunately, there was some sort of opposition within the defense ministry and the late Meir Dagan, and of course the Gabi Ashkenazi, who was the chief of the IDF, and Yuval Diskin. And they did not support this attack, fearing it will lead to an overall multi-regional war that Israel is not capable of handling at that time. I think it was a mistake at the time, and Netanyahu eventually retreated from this attack. I think had we attacked at that time, things would have been completely different by now. But I just don't want to go into any sort of political or anything like that.
Okay, thank you very much. I do have another question about ballistics, but I also I want to ask you, Eyal, regarding let's say the potential of this for escalation, and also the wider implications. Something that's been on my mind, I don't know if it's true. Can there happen in Iran something that happened like in Syria, basically that a third party enemy of Iran would take advantage of its weakness and try to bite it from a different border or something like that? Dr. Pinko, do you like to take that question?
Yeah, if you see the geopolitical arena of Iran, this is something not only from the doctrine or strategy of who is surrounding Iran, but also from the geographical point of view. And Iran is in a kind of geographical area which it will be very hard to anyone to invade to Iran. So I don't think if you see the other parties that are, I would say, against Iran, if it's I would say that gently, these are the Sunni countries, and I think that if you see the major parts of these Sunni countries, which is Saudi Arabia and Egypt, they don't have any really kind of attempts, strategy or will to go to conquer Iran. Even there was published today in the morning that Ahmad al-Shara, terror organization, the new Syrian or the new Al-Qaeda organization, went into the Iraqi border in order to see that nobody will invade from Iraq, any kind of Shia militia or any kind of Quds forces, whatever they are over there, that will not invade to Syria or to Israel in order to create some kind of October 7 effect. So I believe that the only aggressor when we see really in this neighborhood is Iran, and the other Sunni countries and other countries don't have any kind of will or strategy to go to conquer Iran. At the end of the day, everybody wants Iran to go back to what was before this regime, to the Shah, when the peace was over there and the economy was flourishing. And I believe also the Iranian people wants to go there at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you very much for this. I want to ask a specific ballistics question that's been on my mind to Tal, and then I also want to ask another kind of a wider geopolitical question. Tal, I live really not far from the damage in Rishon LeZion, and I've seen the way it's hit. It essentially looks like a section of the neighborhood is like Gaza. It has devastation, which is kind of wide spread from the point of where it hits. So my two questions for this are basically, can you tell us what these missiles contain? What's the payload? And also, what are they aiming for? Because I know in ballistic missiles at these distances, there's a sort of tolerance of dozens of tens of meters of what is acceptable as a hit. They hit just a house. So can you say to those two things?
Yeah, but first, we are talking about ballistic missiles that we know for many years. Until now, we didn't see anything new in comparison with the October 24 attack or the April 24 the first Iranian strike on Israel. Some of the warheads are heavy, meaning that they could weigh anything between 700 to 1,000 kilograms. Not every kilogram is, of course, explosives, but several hundreds of kilograms of high explosives could inflict a severe damage to an urban environment. And I saw the pictures too in Rishon LeZion. So a lot of 2 stories high private houses were almost. It was like a complete devastation in the area because of the effects from this heavy warhead. I don't know what was the aiming point, and even if I did, I wouldn't tell it here. But nevertheless, you have to also remember that first, not every Iranian missile is accurate enough to pinpoint hitting a target. And in some cases, a partial interception could deflect the re-entry vehicle. So if, for example, it is aiming for one point and we hit it in part and it's not destroyed completely, then it could deflect and landed in another area. So you have to also take it into account. This is, by the way, one of the differences between 2024, 2 attacks on Israel, and this one, because now we see some damage in urban areas like in Tel Aviv or Ramat Gan, for example. And the last time it was not, Iran was not aiming urban and civilian environments like those because it was targeting some Air Force bases. So this is to answer you, I think, one of the 2 questions. What was the second one, or the second count in the question of ballistic missiles?
You're muted.
I'm sorry, I mean, it's both. Yeah, you answered about the payload and the thing.
Okay.
But segging from that answer, Israel has been preparing, for months for this, and it's probably considered what Iran might do in retaliation. And while it is infuriating to Israelis that they're just hitting civilian targets, and Khamenei, I think, said that they're going to increase doing that, in a sense, it's something that could be expected, and yet Israel today did, if I'm not mistaken, hit at the gas installation, natural gas installation.
Breeze.
So
Yes.
correct me if I'm wrong.
Debris, the oil installation in debris, and some gas installation as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Even a seaports in the major seaports also were hit by Israel.
So it's one thing, for example, kind of surgically taking out the regime and telling, I don't know who, the daughter, the grandson of the Shah, here's the country, or, breaking the country. And also these things affect the global economy, the cost of oil, etc. So can you discuss to how an escalation will look, and also how it might include regional countries like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, etc.?
I will start with that, okay?
Okay.
First of all, we have to remember that 85% of the oil exports of Iran goes to China. In fact, 10% of the oil consumption in China comes from Iran. Basically, it's exported from a tiny island called Kharj. It's the size of New Jersey. And there is back to back with some tankers in order to bypass the sanctions. So the major importer of oil is China, and the most effect will be on China, less on the world trade, because China is ripping off the Iranians with the prices, and so the effect will probably be on China and not on the neighboring states. But I want to say a few things regarding that. First of all, Israel has to be very careful to differentiate between the regime and the Iranian people. We are not fighting Iran. In fact, the Persian are only 35 to 40% of the population of Iran, and we are fighting the Ayatollah regime, and we have to be very careful not to drive the whole population of Iran into supporting the resistance of the regime if they are faced with some very severe economical crisis that can be inflicted by initiating military campaign against the oil industry. Let's not forget, Iran economy is oil. It's not Persian carpets, and it's not pistache, it's oil. And if we strike Iran oil facilities, that means we are going to bring into almost a total collapse of the Iranian economy. And the effect will not be only on the regime, but it will be on the people itself. And we have to be very, very careful regarding that.
I would like to add on that, by the way, that during while Oded was speaking, it was published that Israel also attacked the second gas facilities, which is in Bandar Abbas, and this is after Bushehr, and this is 4 minutes ago. It means I do agree with Oded. The main customer for Iran it's China, and China depends very well on this gas and oil. The other, by the way, provider for China it's Russia.
Yeah.
So almost 60% of the Chinese energy facilities are coming from Russia and Iran, and this is the reason for this triangle and this evil axis, as we call it. And you see that you spoke about escalation. There were already announcements yesterday and today that Pakistan are going to help Iran with ammunition and missiles, probably aerial defense system, probably. Russia, Putin said that he's going to help Iran as well, probably also with aerial defense, but not necessarily. So if you speak about some nightmare and escalation in the geopolitical point of view, we can see that Iran said that if the U.S., France will help Israel, they are going to suffer from attacks that will come from Iran. So world escalation, which is I think it's a very extreme, very very extreme scenario, but it means that we are going into escalation that will be one axis, the Chinese, Iranian, Russian, Pakistani, and North Korean side against the free world. It's going to be really really extreme, but the escalation from now can go faster. And they were attacking our civilians. We are attacking now. They are really the most important economical driver that they have, and this can really lead to this kind of escalation. While the U.S., France, the Jordanian air forces are over there to help Israel to protect itself. Let's see what will be tonight.
Okay, so saying, I'm addressing again this follow-up question to the entire panel. Assuming, you talked about the strike now, that we're going to continue attacking those installations. Can you summarize, what has so far been accomplished by the Air Force, and especially the very dramatic, the commander of the Air Force today said that the way to Iran, to the west, from the west, Iran to Tehran is completely open. And I'm thinking, okay, Gaza is half a tank of fuel. There's still, even with no air defenses, that's quite a dramatic statement. Like the Air Force is operating freely inside Iran. In that sense, there's really no limit to the sort of bank of targets that they can have. Can you comment on what has been accomplished so far by the IAF?
Who you want for me to answer?
I think that I have a question for Oded about. Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. If you see this operation, I think it's a fantastic intelligence and aerial operations. You cannot disattach the intelligence from that. First, the intelligence operation to clear the skies, and the second one to create targets inside Iran in a very, very well real-time and accurate. And as the Air Force commanders said today, you see that Israeli Air Force is over there all over Iran, from north to south, east, west, hitting targets. And the only way that Iranian can do something is with machine guns against the aircrafts. You see that at the end of the day, in the practical, this is what is happening. And while the aircrafts are going there with 2,000 kilometers, 1,700 kilometers going to attack, they have first the full logistic support for that with tankers and everything, let them operate over there freely. And with that, which I think is very, very important, the ability to bring targets in real time of the Iranian officials and stationary and fixed targets as well. So I think this is very impressive operations, intelligence and aerial, showing all Israelis' capabilities.
I want to add to Eyal, what we have been observing is I'm calling it the world's first digital war, and I will explain what I mean by that. I think maybe in the first time in the history of modern warfare, we see the cycle of intelligence gathering, assessment, targeting, and after targeting intelligence, this whole circle is condensed into minutes, and we are talking about 1,500 kilometers from Israel. I don't think we ever had the ability to observe such a phenomenon, which Israel right now is, in fact, portraying to the whole world, and I think it will be learned by many intelligence services and so on. Another thing which is important to mention, that the Iranians' capabilities are diminishing in every moment, and they are diminishing in a way that it reflects the weakness of the regime. And this is very important for the regime to reflect a powerful, we're in control, our hand is on the joystick, and this is not what is happening. And we can see it gradually in the social media in Iran, and we can see it around in the moderate Arab states, and this is an important factor. But having said all that, Eyal is absolutely right. We don't know where it's going to escalate. Okay, so far we haven't seen, I would say, a real involvement of the Axis, rather than some talks and supportive things. We didn't see actual kinetic help, neither from Russia, neither from China, and definitely not from Pakistan. Okay, but it can change. Things are changing rapidly, and we have to be on alert. The Americans are extremely important right now as the, I would say, the grown-up in this escalation, in order to condense it and to maintain it, not to get into a regional overall war between the Axis and the West.
So considering that, I mean, I'm wondering why, today Iran has made also threats against, first of all, the Americans have warned them not to attack American bases, but they also made threats against Britain and France, and Keir Starmer said already he's going to beef up I mean, it's odd that, in their situation, they're trying to piss off basically the entire Western world, and bring on more foes, or is it just rhetoric?
I would say, just very shortly, it's an automatic pilot. Anyone who knows the Iranians should expect such rhetoric. They had done it hundreds of times before. I remember after the assassination of Qasem Soleimani and others. We should not take it too much seriously, that rhetoric, but they might also have some sort of miscalculation, and they might attack American targets. If it happens, I think there will be a grave mistake on their behalf. As Napoleon said, don't do nothing, don't interfere when your enemies are making mistakes.
Okay, thank you for that. Tal, do you follow civilian air travel by any chance? Can you maybe comment? Have you seen those reports about, the civilian planes fleeing Iran despite an Iranian ban on flights?
I saw it. I don't think that there are too many people in Iran who possess a private jet, so we have to take it into account. But I wanted to comment and to follow on what Oded and Eyal said before. We see, for example, two very interesting targets that were not attacked until now. One, of course, is the nuclear reactor at Arak. And nearby this reactor, there is a huge facility for producing heavy water. Both targets are above the ground, and it is with no difficulty could be hit and level to the ground. No one touched those targets yet. And of course, we have Fordow. And Fordow, I think, I don't know, but I think that by not attacking the Arak facility and Fordow, those could be some chips in the negotiations that the US is involved with Iran. For example, if there is going to be some type of allowed nuclear research in Iran, it could be conducted in Arak, which, by the way, was a nuclear reactor that is supposed to produce plutonium for a bomb. But nevertheless, the core of this reactor was removed under the agreement that we had several years ago, but the core is still in Iran. So it could be changed into a much small capacity nuclear reactor for the future. So this is just a thought. And speaking about Fordow, because of the heavy layers and very thick layers of rocks, it could be saved for the US if the US will engage at the next phase of this operation. So by not attacking those targets, I think there is a message to the Iranian regime. And speaking about threatening the West, the UK and so on, it's not, of course, it's the natural way of Islamic Republic rhetoric, but it's also a sign of the weakness of the regime, not its force.
Okay, thank you very much for this. I have one last question from a reporter. I wanna field it to Eyal. Basically, there's been much talk of a sort of potential cross-border attack similar to October 7. So, what about the notion that while Israel is busy far in Iran, Iran might try to, send some cells through the Jordanian border, which has been sort of porous over the past year? Is Israel prepared for that kind of possibility?
Yeah. At first, Iranian forces which are operating in Jordan, it's not some theoretical issue. We see that in the last 2 or 3 years, Iranian Quds forces are operating in Jordan in order to create over there chaos, and they are dealing a lot with the drugs transfer from Syria to Jordan and move it forward. So also Jordan became a huge hub of drug smuggling, which is being led by Hezbollah, or at least in the past, with Hezbollah, with the Bashar al-Assad regime, and the Iranians as well. So Iranians are over there. Just to remember, there is a huge population of Palestinians over there. pro-Hamas, and they even made some riots recently. And you can see even in the last day or two, they are calling the king, they are putting him in a very ridiculous way, because mocking him as his traitor because he helped Israel. So in fact, to understand that their cells, the Quds Force cells, they are already for 2 years, at least 2 years. It's more, but let's say in a very high quantities. They are operated in Jordan. The Jordanian border is less covered from the Israeli part. If it's possible, if it's a potential, it's a totally potential. And it can come from Jordan, it can come from the triple point of the borders of Iraq, Syria, and Israel, from the T4 area. It's also a possibility. You're muted, so.
And of course, yesterday you mentioned that as their nature, they might try to do some kind of like a AMIA style attack in just abroad on a soft target.
Absolutely, yes. They have capabilities. They have cyber capabilities, which we didn't speak about as well, but this can be also operated. And by the way, you see of also our western border, the sea. We are tracking Iranian ships for many years, and they are being covered as merchant vessels with the capabilities of taking down from those vessels midget submarines. It's a submarines that weigh 250 tons, operated by 6 people to create some kind of commando operations. This we see that the Iranian Revolution Guard they are trained for that. They are operating in the Middle East, in the Mediterranean Sea for many years. So this is also some kind of potential attack, or let's say this is a not fictional scenario. Okay, so it's possibly at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, all of you, Oded, Ailam, Dr. Eyal, Pinko, and Inbar, for being here so late in the day. We're all tired, also the journalists. You had few questions of your own. We're gonna try to do these briefings daily as the event progress. And personally, may I add, I hope there's a few of those days, and that in about a week, Iran is gonna run out of missiles, and we're gonna have a full night's sleep.
Amen.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you. Be well.